Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Good morning, afternoon, evening, or late night. Who knows? Well, I mean, I know what it is for me right now, but I know that we have people tuning in from all around the world and people who are going to watch this video at all different hours of the day. Respected Mademoiselle, namaste. Thank you, Gita. I love that about Indian culture. Instead of saying hello or hi, which they do, but traditionally the way people greet each other in Indian culture is to say namaste, which literally means I bow to the divine in you, or the divine in me bows to the divine in you. What a great way to start a conversation. So let's be humble for a moment and ask our dear friend Bruno Groening for help. Help in all areas of our life. Help in this community hour. Help for me as the one facilitating it, and help for each person here, each person live, and each person listening, to help to have good receptivity to the divine energy and good receptivity to the truth. That doesn't mean I'm not saying, oh, believe everything I say. What I'm saying is, let's ask Bruno that we can really take in, hear, and feel the truth. Because ultimately, that's what this path is about. Everything Bruno Groening said was to lead us to have a direct connection with the divine, to where we could know and experience the truth for ourselves in our own bodies. And if I'm doing my job well, which I see my job as just to, as accurately as possible, point out what Bruno Groening said, then everything I'm saying is doing the same thing, pointing people towards connecting directly to God, to being able to experience the truth for themselves. So then you won't need me anymore. I'm trying to put myself out of business here. So let's ask Bruno for help to take in this energy, to really come to know that what he called our natural human instinct comes awake. And that we're able to know what's good and what's not good, what's true and what's not true. We could just ask that Bruno guide this community hour. And again, not just guide me, the person facilitating it, but guide each person here. And of course, that prayer we want to live all of our life, to be guided by God, to follow God. And we come to these gatherings to practice that, to deepen our faith and trust in that. So Bruno Groening said, I can, this is from memory, but I believe it's almost an exact quote, I can give back the connection that everyone really needs, the connection to God. But you have to, the German word is usually translated as listen. I believe a more accurate translation is to give your full attention to God. So, the world is full of distractions. And as time goes on, it seems to me there's more and more things to distract us from ourselves, from God, and from nature, the most important things. And then, of course, from each other. So one of the meanings of Einstellen is to focus. So if any of you are anything like me, and you know, my attention can go every which way all throughout the day. And so it's this practice, it's this breaking the habit of being scattered and learning to focus and focus on God. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes the negative thoughts just keep coming. And what we're working with is what Bruno called the force of habit. I believe what Bruno called us to was to be connected to God all day long. And so we just start where we are. For some people, that might mean being connected to God for 1 minute in the day. For some people, it might be just staying connected to God during a gathering like this. And then for some people, it's staying connected to God as we move about our day. Just, it's about progress. It's about striving. It's about putting in, making effort. But we don't have to make this effort alone. As they say in slang, Bruno's got our back. Meaning, Bruno's looking out for us. More than looking out. He said he's fighting for us. Struggling. My mind is pretty scattered, so when it gets really scattered, I just repeat a prayer or a mantra over and over. One day I asked during a community hour, actually, it's like, Bruno, I need help with my mind. What should I do? And what came to me was a mantra that I had heard before. And I just started repeating it as much as I could. And it really helped me focus. And so that's something that worked for me. For other people, it's following their breath. But, Bruno said to take in this energy, there's this requirement that we be calm. And I don't know if he ever mentioned it or not, but I find it's essential for me to have a focused mind as well. So I hear it often, like what to do with my mind. My mind just won't stop. That's what I know to do. And the other very important thing to do is that Bruno taught was to give away negative thoughts. Once the mind starts chattering, then I noticed I become a little less vigilant, a little less present, and that's when negative thoughts can creep in. So Bruno's instructions were very simple, very clear. As soon as we become aware of a negative thought, say, I don't accept or I don't receive this thought, and give it away to God or to Bruno and ask for a good thought. That's an amazing way to begin. To just notice our thoughts and say, is this a good thought? Is this a bad thought? Is this a true thought or is this an untrue thought? There's so much grace available on this path, and Bruno straight up said it's a fight. This struggle with evil, it requires some effort. But we have such a friend in Bruno Groening. Oh my. Yesterday, I taught someone how to tune in, a person who is who's living on the streets, who doesn't have a home, and I have a bunch of old they're called schooling letters, which are just basically they're people talking about Bruno Groening and sharing healing reports, and I put them outside, and this person had picked one up, and so she already knew about Bruno, and she already really believed, so she had a head start, and I taught her how to tune in, and she had a healing. She had dysentery. All she could do was drink water, and 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 after one day of tuning in, she's already had a healing. That's the kind of friend that Bruno Groening is. He can change lives and change destinies. It was really helpful. This person was very open. She's like, she believed everything she read. She's like, yes, this is true. Healings are possible. Wow, Bruno sounds like an amazing friend and helper. She was just open. There's this thing of, you know, Bruno said, only trust, and I'll do for you what you no longer can do. And he also said, it doesn't depend on me, it depends on the person. And so here's an example. This person was so open. And so Bruno could do so much, could pass along so much good. And if someone's not open, then someone's not open. I don't have it handy, but I'm going to paraphrase something Bruno said, and it's almost exact. Bruno said, it doesn't depend upon a small person as myself or the almighty, the omnipotent power of God. It depends on the person themselves. So this is one of the paradoxes of the path. We've got a mighty helper like Bruno Groening, who said, with one word, I could heal every person in this city. Talk about mighty. Talk about a powerful helper. We've got the almighty power of God, which can, I don't know, create a universe, create us, give us an immortal soul, create these bodies that are unspeakably complex. Unspeakably amazing. Create nature. All we have to do is look at a tree. Much less our galaxy, much less the sun, much less this earth. So we've got a helper like Bruno Groening. We've got the almighty power of God, and we have a certain power. We have a will and a power. We have free will. And in essence, the sad news is we've been blocking helpers such as Bruno Groening, and we've been blocking the almighty power of God without even knowing it. That's how powerful we are. Or at least God's given us the power to say no. And here we are in this lifetime, in each of us, this body is a certain, number, has been around for a certain number of years. It's not like we consciously said, no, I want to keep out God. I want to keep out health, happiness, and healing. And at a certain point, we said it is in a certain lifetime, at a certain point, we said yes to evil. And then Bruno compared it to a seed that you have to totally get evil out, or it'll just keep growing. It'll just keep sprouting. And so in essence, we're breaking the habit of um, saying no to the almighty, all good power of God. And it's a moment by moment thing. And we can ask for help all throughout the day. We can place our trust in Bruno Groening. So let's sit with all that for a little bit. I've shared before that when I was working on healing one particular thing, what I noticed is that I thought about it all day long. What, by all day long, I mean 200 or 300 times. Like 200 or 300 times. My gosh, that's about accurate. That's 4 or 5 times an hour. No, it's more than that. It's like 9 or 10 times an hour. So that's one place we can begin. Every time we think about an illness, give it away again. See, the thing is we're all suffering from a very intense delusion that we can do life without God, and or that we can free ourselves from evil. And meaning that we can free ourselves without God's help. One spiritual program I really respect sums it up like this: I can't, God can. I think I'll let him. Bruno has a key role in this process we're involved in, or your spiritual helper if you don't necessarily, if you feel more connected to Christ or someone else. The thing is, I don't claim to know when a healing happens, like how much of it is Bruno Groening, how much of it is God, how much of it is the energy. Bruno himself said that all he did was pass along the energy. But he also said, I extend a helping hand. He said, I will help, and my help will lead to salvation. At the minimum, Bruno Groening helps us remake the connection. And that might be that might be it. That might be sometimes he takes on a burden for someone. I've experienced, and I know lots of people, where something just vanishes. Bruno said, I am only a tool of God. It is not about me. It is not about me. I do not want any money for my help. I only carry out the orders that God gives me. I cannot act differently from the way in which God inspires me. Bruno also said, let's just say that I am the little soul caregiver. Take care of the soul. I open it up. I know how to open it up to set a person free. So it seems to me that it very much is and isn't about Bruno Groening. And I spend a lot of time on this particular question. And what comes to me is what Bruno said is, he said, I'll lead you with my heart. And that's what we all need to be led by. So that we too can just do what God inspires us to do, moment by moment. So until we're able to connect to God directly on our own, until we're able to free ourselves from evil through connecting to God, until we can make the statement that Bruno Groening said, I am stronger than evil, I'll just speak out until I can make that statement. I'm utterly dependent on my friend Bruno. because I'm up against a foe, evil, that I'm currently not stronger than. And so I utterly need something that is. My hope is one day to be able to say, I'm stronger than evil, to be completely free of it, and to be able to help others the way Bruno Groening did. Don't know if I'll ever get there. Don't don't know how the universe works. I assume that that's the path we're all on, is becoming freed from evil, and that we are all becoming little soul caregivers. I don't know. Bruno did say that we are already instruments of, that all he was is an instrument of God and a tool of God. That we already are. We just forgotten. We just don't believe yet. One of the hardest parts of this path is patience and trust. It's like, well, God's omnipotent. Why not heal everything now? And we looked at that a lot yesterday. Um, for those who weren't here, the video is up. I believe it's called "Why Healing Doesn't Happen." And Bruno talked about that it's not God's fault. That's because there's something to be learned. Or as Bruno said, we don't have the spiritual maturity yet. Or that this is the most interesting, that it actually just wouldn't be best for us. It can be very hard for us as human beings to fathom. One of my favorite Bible verses, which I don't claim to fully understand, is let patience have her perfect work with you, that you may be made, or no, let patience have her full work with you, that you may be made complete and whole. There's different translations. I never understood that, and I think I'm just starting to. That if we trust in God, if we really trust that everything's going to be okay, and we really cultivate patience, let me restate that. So if we really trust what Bruno Groening said, that the good will prevail, then we can cultivate patience. If we know everything's going to be okay, then we're not going to worry. And not only we're not going to worry, in essence, we're going to feel whole. It's kind of like someone who's, struggling with money, who knows, hey, one day I'm going to be filthy rich. That doesn't mean it's comfortable to not have money, but there's a certain, we can just relax and trust. Like, okay, this particular burden, this challenge I'm up against, this is just regulation. This is just a regulation. It's going to pass, and everything is going to be okay. That's not to say that we do nothing. To the exact contrary. But to have that kind of patience, we really have to trust that everything's going to be okay. And that can be a huge leap of faith. One of the things that's so strengthened my faith is how I feel when I tune in. I feel something so good, so wonderful. I'm starting to think that good feeling is a better indicator of truth. Obviously, a better indicator of truth than the negative thoughts. And that this good feeling tells me about God and tells me about life, what God really is like, what life really is all about, this unspeakable goodness. That's not to say there won't be bumps along the way, there won't be challenges. My understanding is that there absolutely will be challenges, and that how we face them is such an essential part of the path. Bruno speaks about um, being full of good energy so we can face these challenges. And I experienced it yesterday. I was just full of divine energy, and I had a very challenging conversation. And it started off, I just stayed very centered and very, connected to myself, hearing that person. I was really proud of how I showed up. It was a very uncomfortable, intense conversation. And then it started to not feel good. And I started to notice just kind of this sense of my energy kind of dipping a little bit. And instead of stepping away from the conversation, I stayed in, and that was a big mistake. Because then, at a certain point, the person said something pretty negative my way, and I responded negatively. Up to that point, I'd been, neutral, trying to be positive, and so that was such a beautiful teaching for me of, oh my God, Bruno's right. This person had been saying negative thing after negative thing, and it just kind of bounced off me. It didn't really impact me, and I was able to respond again. In some moments, respond neutrally, and in some moments, respond with some positivity. But it did kind of take a toll, and so that was a prime. Maybe that's what life is all about. Maybe that little interaction really demonstrates how life operates on a very nuts and bolts fundamental level. When we're full of good energy, we face challenges and we make good decisions. And when we start to feel depleted, then we make not so good decisions. I didn't cuss the person out, but I said some things that were less than kind that I actually felt like I had to go back and apologize for. And up until the point where I really started to feel depleted, I was really being reasonably kind, considerate. So that was a deep learning for me of, oh my gosh, Bruno's right. We need to stay full of this good energy, as he said, so that you can calmly oppose evil. And I don't want to say the other person was evil or what they were saying was evil, but it was um, another way to say it, so you can calmly face challenges, calmly face difficulties. we need to be mindful that while everyone's inherently good, that doesn't mean they're coming from a good place. We've all had our moments of where we've not felt well and not acted, where we've all had our moments of like, I'm going to get that person. Get doesn't mean physically attack them, but I'm going to say something that'll upset them, or I'm going to do. We've all had those. We've all had those thoughts, and most of us have acted on those thoughts from time to time. Hopefully, as we on this path, we do that less and less. But we really need to be. Bruno was very adamant about keeping clear of people who are dominated by evil, keeping clear of people who don't have faith. And not having faith doesn't mean having a particular belief, but trust in the good. And sometimes people, because Bruno talked about how people spread evil to each other, primarily through words. I experienced it today. Um, Someone wanted to tell me, let me just think how to make it the short version. Actually, the woman who had the healing of dysentery, she got a ticket, and I didn't know the details. There were some officers there, and the woman walked away, and then I asked the officers what's going on, because I kind of consider her a friend and buddy. Just wanted to make sure she was treated well, and they told me. And then as I walked away, another person kind of said, "Hey, come here." And the person said, "Not to be gossipy, but I know what happened with the ticket." I said, "Thank you. I don't want to know. I don't need to know." And then she just repeated herself. "Well, not to be gossipy, but let me tell you what happened." And if I hadn't been strong, uh, what I said was, "Thank you. I don't want to know." But if I hadn't been strong, then what would have happened? She would have told me the story, and information I didn't need to know about something negative, and I would have walked away feeling a little yucky and a little drained. So this person wasn't trying to harm me. This person wasn't trying to spread evil. And um, Bruno was very adamant that it's through spoken word that evil gets passed around. That's not the only way, but it's a very significant way. Bruno did not mince words about this. He said, let me see if I can find it. He said, "You still listen to people. You are still listening to Satan. I only listen to and follow God, which you should also strive to do." Okay, here's an example. Here's a very simple example of someone was unconsciously trying to pass along some evil. She thought she was trying to be helpful. So I'm not judging at all. I'm just using this as an example. And we have to be so careful what we take in, not just our thoughts, but what we listen to. Don't take my word for it. Observe your body as you're listening to someone. We don't have to be afraid of other people, and we don't have to be afraid of their words. That's not what I'm advocating. But see if what Bruno said is true. See if I'm See if I'm presenting it accurately. Next time you talk to someone, observe your body. And what I notice is word by word, sentence by sentence, it has an impact on me. Now, the stronger and more full of energy I am, um, the less impact. But don't take my word for it. Don't take Bruno's word for it. I'm not advocating becoming a hermit, though if that's what you feel called to. I'm kind of a quasi hermit. I definitely have lots of interactions, and I also have a lot of alone time. What I am advocating is to stay full of the divine energy and to not associate with evil, which means not listening to other people, just tell negative things that aren't necessary. I've done it plenty of times. Shared gunk with people. I'm not saying I'm innocent of this. Um, just another example comes to mind where I was, where I was doing it at work. One person had a negative interaction with someone. And then this person went around and I watched him tell 4 or 5 different people the exact same story and the exact same words, just repeating it. And so that doesn't help anyone. Now, of course, this person was trying to feel better. This person wasn't trying to harm other people. He was just trying to, like, he had an interaction that didn't feel good, and he was trying to feel good. But in essence, what he did is he went around and spread a bunch of negativity and just repeating the exact same words. And we've all done it. I don't even know how many times I've done it. Again, I think I'm doing it less. I hope. I think I'm definitely doing it less. Progress. So let's really sit with all this, filling ourselves up. Bruno said, today is forever. It is forever today. If you are in the present, it is always today for you. So we fill ourselves up with good energy and we stay in the present, and then we strive to rise above evil in all the different ways it shows up, primarily in the negative thoughts that come our way. Hi, Germana. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. A waving emoji. All right, dear ones. So I'll begin our closing. This again at 7 p.m. my time, and tomorrow at 9 a.m., 7 p.m. So we have a dear friend and helper in Bruno Groening, and we have our part. All Bruno wants is to help, to pass along, basically to pass along God to us, help us have the divine connection. And we have to keep turning to God and keep turning to Bruno and asking for that help and receiving it. We have to be vigilant with the thoughts and vigilant with the words we listen to. Our time, energy, and attention is so precious. What are we going to put it on? What are we going to give it to? What's important? A big part of this path is trusting that everything will be okay, and then cultivating patience. Recognizing that there's a little bit of a paradox that maybe we can't wrap our mind around, but hopefully we can wrap our heart around, that this path isn't about Bruno Groening, and is in a very deep way. He's a helper and a friend to get us to the point where we don't need a helper and a friend. And until that point, I do. And if I understand Bruno's teaching correctly, until we get to the point that we're stronger than evil, we need a friend who's stronger than evil to help us. And I'm learning to be very mindful when I'm listening to other people. Like Bruno said, don't listen to other people, but I don't believe that's literally. I believe what it means is don't follow other people, and be very, very mindful of the words you take in. You know, we think watching a video or listening or watching a TV show, like we tend to think, oh, that's just something I do. Well, what I'm starting to understand is actually it's something we take in. When we're listening or watching or reading, we're taking in. So just as we're mindful of the food we take into our bodies, we need to be mindful of the thoughts and the words and the images. And a big way this shows up is talking. In this case, when I'm talking about listening. I gave some examples of the ways I was impacted by listening to things that weren't helpful. So let's close with a few minutes of silence. Actually, I'll lead us through a prayer. Beloved Maker, Source, God, our dear friend Bruno, please help us to stay full of the good energy. Please help us to say no to what's not good. Please help us to have faith that everything will be good and to take the right action. Please, let's plead now. Let's beg for mercy, pardon, grace, forgiveness, freedom from all evil. Let's plead, beg, ask for anyone or any situation. You're very welcome, Gita. All right, dear ones. Look forward to seeing and feeling you very soon. Take care. Much love.